now move on to the next major theorem that we are going to prove in this course. This is the inverse function theorem. This is a very famous theorem and it is extremely useful in various parts of analysis as well as in differential geometry. Now the classical proofs of the inverse function theorem were quite involved and long but somewhat elementary. We are now going to use the full force of abstraction to give a very elegant proof of the inverse function theorem. The proof is still not easy, but it becomes more transparent if we invoke these abstract machinery. To that end, let us first prove a fixed point theorem called the Banach Fixed Point Theorem. This theorem has other uses as well. You can prove the existence and uniqueness of solutions to ordinary differential equations using this theorem, and it is used in several places in analysis and functional analysis. So this theorem is also known as the contraction mapping principle, and you will know in a moment why it's called the contraction mapping principle. Let's state the theorem. The setting is a complete metric space, so let X be a complete metric space and F from X to X be a contraction. This just means that there exists a constant C, 0 less than C less than 1, such that d of f of x comma f of y is less than or equal to c times distance of x to y. So in some sense the map sort of contracts points x and y to points that are closer to each other, and that is captured by saying that d fx fy is less than or equal to c dxy. This constant c is independent of the choice of points, so that is to be remembered. This constant c does not depend on the choice of points. The conclusion is then we can find a unique point x0 in x such that f of x0 is equal to x0. So there is a unique fixed point for the mapping f whenever the mapping f is a contraction. The completeness of the space is very crucial, which it will become very clear in the methodology of proof why completeness is essential in this result. Let's prove this result. Proof. Fix x in x. Fix a point x in x. Now let's just see what happens to the point f composed with f of x. The distance from f applied to the point x twice in succession, let's see what happens to it. Well, by our hypothesis that this is a contraction, we know that this is going to be less than or equal to c times d fx f inverse x, but unfortunately f need not be invertible, so we cannot apply such an argument. But what we can do is try to get the required term that we need. So write this as d f composed with fx comma fx plus d fx comma x. So the reason why I did this is because I need this term to use the hypothesis that f is a contraction. I cannot write this in terms of f inverse of x simply because f need not be an invertible map. But now that we have this, we can write the first term. The first term simplifies. This is less than or equal to c times d f of x comma x plus the same thing again d f of x comma x. So the net upshot is this is equal to c plus 1 times d f of x comma x. Okay, So this is the conclusion at the first stage. When you apply f to the point x twice in succession, we get a nice inequality. df composed with fx comma x is less than or equal to c plus 1 times df of x comma x. Now consider the iteration f iterated n times, which is just f composed with f n times. Okay, or if you want a recursive definition, fn is just f composed with fn minus 1. Consider the iterates of f and let's look at what happens to the point x. dfn x comma x. Now you can apply a similar sort of argument that we have already done, and by induction you can conclude that this is less than or equal to cn minus 1 plus cn minus 2 plus dot 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 plus c plus 1 times d f of x comma x. So the exact same argument that we applied for the first case for f2, if you apply induction, you will immediately get this. Okay, now note that 0 is less than c is less than 1, and from this it follows that this series 1 plus c squared plus dot 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 cn minus 1, this is a geometric series. This is a geometric series, and this will converge to a quantity. When you take limit n going to infinity, this will just converge to 1 by 1 minus c. Okay, it's a convergent geometric series. Okay, what does this show? This shows that dfn x comma x is less than or equal to some constant, I don't know what that is, this is 1 by 1 minus c, k d fx comma x. Okay, and for a fixed x, this dfx x is also some constant. Net upshot is this fn x is a bounded sequence. It's a bounded sequence. Okay. Now, because fnx is a bounded sequence, we can try to show that it converges, but we are in an arbitrary metric space, so we have to be a bit more delicate. So we apply induction again, for a fixed n in n, and for each m in n, we have d fn x comma fn plus mx is less than or equal to c power n d fmx comma x. Okay, so this please take your time and prove this by induction. It's very easy and it follows along the same lines of what we have been doing so far. Okay, now let m be the supremum of the quantities d fkx comma x as k runs through the natural numbers. Okay, fix epsilon greater than 0. So if n is suitably large so that this c power n is less than epsilon by this supremum, which we called m, Okay, so rather than saying if n, choose n suitably small will be a better phrasing. Choose n suitably large so that C power n is less than epsilon by m. Okay, so what we can conclude from this is this sequence fnx is Cauchy. Okay, so let x naught be the limit of this sequence. This is the crucial point at which we actually require the completeness of the space. So far in this proof, the completeness of the space was completely not needed. Okay, we are going to now show that this point is the required fixed point. Okay, now to see this, just observe that d of f of x naught comma x naught is less than or equal to d of f of x naught comma fn of x plus d of x naught comma fn of x. Okay, and this is less than or equal to c times d of x naught comma fn minus 1 of x plus d of x naught comma fn of x. Okay, now because fnx converges to x naught, the RHS can be made small if n is very large. If n is very large. In other words, d f x naught is just 0. Okay, which just means f of x naught is equal to x naught. So we have found the required fixed point. Now if f of x naught equal to x naught and f of y naught is equal to y naught, then d of f of x naught comma f of y naught is less than or equal to c times d of x naught y naught. And because c is less than 1, that is simply not possible. This is not possible unless x naught is equal to y naught. Okay, so this shows that there can be at the max one fixed point. We have shown that for a contraction there can be at the max one fixed point. Here completeness, nothing is used. Whenever you have a contraction, there can be at most one fixed point. So this concludes the proof of the Banach fixed point theorem. We will soon see how to prove the inverse function theorem using the Banach fixed point theorem. In the next video, I am going to motivate the proof of the inverse function theorem by using another theorem that is often used as a substitute for the Banach fixed point theorem, Newton's method. This is a course on real analysis and you have just watched the video on the Banach fixed point theorem.